We could really benefit from having more feedback from how people are using it, what are the risks, what are the limitations, and learn more about this technology that we have created.
Scientists fed crop circle images into the most advanced pattern recognition AI ever built, expecting it to call the whole thing a hoax in under a second. Instead, the machine paused. Then it triggered an alert nobody in the room had seen before. Then it returned an answer that was not supposed to be a possible output.
It just shows the level of knowledge, mathematical knowledge, geometric skill that goes into making these things. Many of the most famous crop circles actually derive from fractal patterns.
The researchers ran the test again. Same result. They tried images from different countries, different decades, different fields. The AI kept saying the same thing. And what it was saying does not fit any explanation we currently have for what crop circles actually are. The machine found here is the part you need to hold on to. The AI did not decode the message. It decoded the existence of a message. That distinction is not a technicality. It is the entire point. And it is the reason Holloway has spoken about it on the record exactly once. Finding out something is trying to communicate is not the same as understanding what it is saying. One is exciting, the other is closer to dread. His team had spent 2 years building this, a neural pattern recognition system designed to look at any visual pattern and place it inside the correct framework of meaning. Mayan symbols, Tibetan mandalas, Gothic cathedral blueprints, NASA orbital telemetry. 5,000 years of human visual culture. By the end of training, no human visual pattern existed that the system had not seen. Holloway thought he understood its limits. He was wrong. The alarm? It started as a joke. A few researchers pulled crop circle images off the internet and dropped them into the test queue. Holloway laughed. Someone joked the system would call them a hoax inside a tenth of a second. The first image went in. Where the system usually returned results in under a second, this time it paused. A second image, then a third. And then, for the first time in the history of the project, a warning none of them had ever seen before lit up the monitoring screen. Algorithmic entropy spike. That alert is buried deep in the system. It exists for one specific scenario. Encountering data so structurally outside the training set, the machine cannot fit it into any known framework. The room went quiet. The entropy spikes kept coming. Holloway loaded over a dozen formations in sequence. Same alert. Same impossible reading. He told one journalist later, it was like watching the machine press itself against an invisible wall and refuse to step back. Uncategorizable. The images were not the problem. These were high-resolution aerial photographs. Sharp, detailed, perfect symmetry, clear geometric structure, mathematical precision matching anything in the training set. Every condition for categorization was met, and yet the system kept returning the same answer with terrifying consistency. This does not belong to any known category. Then finally, the word that stopped everything. Uncategorizable. Holloway stared at the monitor. The intern next to him whispered, "That is not supposed to be a possible output." And it was not. This system was built to return something. A closest approximation, a fallback, a guess. There was no guess. If the AI had been confused, the data would have shown it. The noise you get when a machine is flailing. But this system was producing the same result with total clarity for every image. What it was saying, in the only language a machine has, was this. I can see the structure. I can confirm something is here. But whatever made this was not part of the world I was trained to understand. If your brain is already trying to find the explanation, please stay with me. What comes next is the reason there is not one. Subscribe and hit the bell now, because what the team found in the next 48 hours is the part Holloway has refused to put in any peer-reviewed paper. The pattern. The team isolated the images that had triggered the strongest warnings. One formation kept producing the highest density of alerts. They zoomed in. The design did not look like a drawing. It looked like physics. It looked exactly like an interference pattern, the visual phenomenon that appears when two or more waves collide. Drop two stones into still water at the same moment. Where the ripples meet, they generate layered overlapping regions of peaks and troughs. Physicists can map those patterns mathematically, precise, predictable, and not the kind of thing a person draws in a field at night with wooden boards. Holloway called in Dr. Marcus Rain, a cryptographer at King's College London. Rain arrived that evening, looked at the formation for less than 30 seconds, and sat down without taking off his coat. He told Holloway the geometry matched a wave collision pattern almost exactly. Then he asked quietly, who built it? The AI had detected this without being told to look for it. The moment it did, it stopped treating the formation like an image and started treating it like a signal. Rainey ran the standard decoders. Binary patterns, nothing. Known encryption formats, nothing. The pattern was behaving like data. There was no data to extract. Compression test. It was just after midnight when Dr. Elena Krabsoff from the University of Edinburgh's Computational Physics Group sat down at the workstation alone. She had sent the team home. Some results need to land without an audience. When you compress a digital file, the system removes redundant information. Simple patterns compress dramatically. Complex patterns compress less. But they always compress. Every digital file ever created has obeyed this rule. She ran the algorithm on the isolated crop circle image. The file got larger. She set down her coffee, ran it again, larger, switched algorithms, larger, moved to a second workstation and ran it fresh. Larger every time. On the third failed attempt, Elena later told a colleague her hand started shaking and she had to put it flat on the desk. The pattern was so densely layered with non-redundant complexity that the compression system could not find a single element to remove. Instead, it had to generate additional information just to keep up. She compared this to cryptographic ciphers and DNA. In ciphers, simple surfaces conceal enormous encoded layers. In DNA, a compact molecule unfolds into incomprehensible complexity. But in both cases, there is always a known framework beneath the surface. In this crop circle, no known framework, no recognizable logic. And still the structure was there, consistent, expanding, deeper than anything the team could fully map. Something built this. By morning, the atmosphere in the lab had changed. The AI was not flagging these patterns the way it flags noise or corrupted data. It was flagging them the way it flags suspicious things. The architecture used to detect forged currency. The signals used to identify deep fake content. The alerts fired at deliberately obfuscated encryption. These were the flags for intentional design. The system was not saying this looks random and I cannot categorize it. It was saying this looks deliberately constructed and I still cannot categorize it. That distinction is everything. This is when the idea finally appeared in the room, quietly. What if this is not a pattern? What if this is a message? The nervous laughter lasted 30 seconds. Then the data made it stop. The field, Holloway and Rainey reached the field in Wiltshire at dawn, 2 days after the entropy alerts began. The formation was enormous. The wheat at the boundary swayed in a light breeze. Inside, nothing moved. Then they looked at the plants. The wheat was not simply pressed down. Each stem had been bent at almost exactly a 90-degree angle, not broken, alive, green, cellular structure intact. The kind of fold you would see if someone had applied pressure with this extraordinary gentleness at a precise angle, with consistent force across every plant in a formation the size of several basketball courts. The plants had been woven, one stem layered over another, a third folded across both, an interlocking structure that looked like deliberate craft. They searched for evidence of how it had been made. Footprints? None. Tire marks? None. No entry channel through the surrounding crop. Two things at once: geometric precision across an enormous area, and zero evidence anyone had been there. One could be explained, not both. The soil samples came back later that week. Crystal formations, particles fused into structures that require intense concentrated heat. Metallic microspheres, perfectly spherical particles that form when material is liquefied by extreme heat, goes airborne, and cools rapidly. Found at lightning strike sites, near meteorite impact zones, not in agricultural fields. The magnetic alignment of the soil had shifted. No power lines, no transmission towers, no source of electromagnetic energy. Something had been here, and it had left nothing behind except the evidence of what it did. The 200. This is where it stopped being a single anomaly and became something systematic. The team assembled over 200 high-resolution aerial images of formations from across the world, different countries, different decades. For the simpler formations, the AI found exactly what you would expect: Fibonacci spirals, Penrose tiling, known mathematical structures, human-made design confirmed. But as the analysis reached the most complex formations, roughly a third of the total, the system did something that should not have been possible. It generated a new classification, a category nobody had programmed it to create, a tag the system constructed for itself, in real time, to hold data it could not place anywhere else. Holloway had 4 team members check the logs. The system had done it on its own. The mirror. Then came the formation pair. The AI flagged 2 designs, one from Wiltshire in the early 2000s, one from outside Buenos Aires several years later. On the surface, completely different shapes. But when the AI compared their internal geometry, they were not similar. They were the same. One was a 180-degree rotation of the other. Rain sat with the comparison for almost an hour. What he eventually told Holloway on a call that night was that he could not find a model in which 2 unrelated hoaxers, separated by an ocean and a half-decade, produced the same encoded geometry. There was no model. There still is not. The timeline. The earliest formations from the 1970s were simple, basic circles, the kind a small group with wooden boards could produce overnight. But as the years progressed, the formations grew complex in ways that require modern computing to fully map. Fractals, mathematical ratios from advanced physics, geometric structures encoding information in multiple simultaneous layers. It looked like escalation, like something had begun with signals calibrated to the limits of what the era could receive, and had been incrementally upgrading ever since, watching to see whether anyone was developing the tools to listen. The brain link. The final stage produced the data the team is still arguing about. The most complex formations, the ones that had triggered the strongest uncategorizable responses, were shown to human subjects while their brain activity was monitored. Certain designs were simultaneously activating regions associated with deep pattern recognition and emotional response, both at once, something operating below conscious interpretation, in the architecture of the mind that processes meaning before language can form around it. The AI named this phenomenon neurosymbolic messaging, information transfer that does not operate through language but through pattern and structure, delivered directly to the parts of the human mind that recognize meaning before they can articulate it. A signal that bypasses every cultural barrier and lands in the cognitive hardware all human beings share, not writing, not code. It would look like geometry pressed into a field. The formations the AI could not categorize were the same ones that activated the deepest responses in human subjects. The machine reached the edge of its architecture. The brain responded below conscious thought. Some part of us already recognizes those patterns. No answer. The AI decoded the structure. It confirmed the complexity. It identified the consistency across a global dataset. It generated, autonomously, a new category to hold the formations it could not place anywhere else. But it could not identify the source. Is this the work of some intelligence that has been observing us long enough to understand mathematics is the only language we might eventually share? Is it something whose origin we would not recognize, even if it were named? Is it a phenomenon with no sender at all, some unknown property of consciousness or nature that generates structured information through processes we have not discovered? The AI's final output on the question of origin was 3 words: insufficient data, continue. Holloway has not closed the project. Krabsoff is still running tests in Edinburgh. Rain has gone quiet. Whatever is in those fields has been patient, consistent, escalating in ways that track our ability to notice it. We just confirmed the cipher is real. We still cannot read it. What do you think it is trying to say? Drop your theories below. And if questions like this stay with you, subscribe and hit the bell. The next chapter of this investigation is not going to be any easier to explain.